All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about one of the most, let's say, colorful characters in all of tech history, Larry Ellison. For decades, this guy wasn't just the CEO of Oracle, he was the master showman of the database world. And this is the story of how that larger-than-life personality of his basically started a war that completely reshaped the entire industry.
So, this was one of Ellison's go-to lines. He'd throw it out from a keynote stage, and you could just feel the sting. It was part brag, sure, but it was also a total challenge. This one sentence, it perfectly sums up his whole playbook. Arrogant, in your face, and just perfectly designed to get under the skin of his biggest rivals. It really sets the stage for all the drama to come.
So how did he build this massive empire? Well, the first thing he built wasn't a product, it was a character. Ellison understood something that a lot of tech people don't. The industry loves a good story. And he decided, you know what? He was going to be the main character in his. For him, a product launch wasn't just about the product. It was an event. A competitor's big win wasn't just a shift in the market. No, it was a plot twist that he had to respond to. He'd call out Amazon, Google, Salesforce, you name it, right from the stage, turning these boring quarterly earnings calls into the next episode of some long-running drama.
And here's the thing. He loved this role. He didn't run from being seen as the villain. He leaned right into it. This brash, unapologetic personality, that wasn't some accident or a side effect of his success. Nope. It was a core part of his strategy to just dominate the conversation and make sure all eyes were on him.
But behind all that drama and theater was this. This was the real secret sauce to Oracle's power: enterprise lock-in. See, once your company's data was inside an Oracle database, trying to move it somewhere else was just ridiculously hard and crazy expensive. The showmanship kept everyone watching the stage, while the business model was quietly locking all the doors.
But those jabs he'd make on stage, they weren't just for show. Turns out they were the sparks that would end up lighting a revolutionary fire.
He didn't pick small fights either. He went right after the biggest names in the game. He saw what Amazon was doing with cloud computing. He saw Google's massive data infrastructure, Salesforce's whole software-as-a-service thing, and he publicly challenged every single one of them, always positioning Oracle as the one true king.
This line of attack, though, was particularly telling. He would publicly dismiss the entire open source movement as just, amateur hour. He called projects like PostgreSQL and MySQL toys. And that wasn't just an insult to a competitor. That was an insult to this massive, global community of developers.
And that, right there, is where the story takes a turn. His words did way more than just annoy his rivals. They actually gave them a cause. They created a clear enemy that everyone could unite against. Suddenly, proving Larry Ellison wrong became this incredibly powerful, motivating force for a whole generation of engineers and entrepreneurs. And so, the very generation he provoked started to mobilize. And the response? It wasn't small or scattered, it was strategic. It was massive, and it was aimed right at the heart of Oracle's empire.
So, you've got Amazon kicking off this huge internal project. And get this, they called it Project Rolling Stone. A pretty clear shot at Oracle, right? Google goes all in, doubling down on their own cloud-native database tech. And the open source community, they rallied like never before, basically painting Oracle as this old, clunky, expensive monolith that had to come down.
This number, it's just staggering. As part of Project Rolling Stone, Amazon systematically moved off of and shut down 7,500 of its internal Oracle databases. Think about that. This wasn't just a tech project, it was a very public declaration of independence. The same company Ellison loved to mock was now leading the charge to leave him behind. And here's the beautiful irony in all of this. In trying to cement his own dominance, Larry Ellison actually created his most powerful competitors. His own taunts were the perfect motivation, turning all that simmering resentment into focused, well-funded, and brilliant innovation.
And with that, the Oracle wars were officially on. But the fight wasn't just about who had more market share anymore. It was about a deep, fundamental shift in how technology itself was being built.
Now, Oracle didn't just stand by and watch, of course. They fought back, and they fought back hard. They rolled out their own super-optimized hardware, they bought up competing companies left and right, and they used these incredibly complex, aggressive licensing contracts to keep their customers locked in. They were defending their fortress. This really lays out the core conflict perfectly. Oracle was the old guard, the single, massive, all-powerful database, the monolith. The new wave, led by the cloud companies, was all about microservices, these small, flexible, independent systems that you could scale up or down super easily. It was a totally different way of thinking about the problem.
What's so incredible, though, is that even as this massive technological ground was shifting right under their feet, Ellison's showmanship kept Oracle right at the center of the conversation. His villain persona was so compelling that the industry just couldn't look away, even as the very foundations of his empire were being challenged.
So, after all that drama, what's the big takeaway? What's the real legacy of the Oracle Wars, and the man who was at the very center of it all?
Ultimately, it comes down to this. Whether you think he's a brilliant strategist or just an arrogant showman, you cannot deny that Larry Ellison understood the power of a good story. He knew that progress often needs something powerful to push against.
He crafted that public persona with just incredible skill. He was the character you love to hate, right? The titan who seemed totally unbeatable, and that just made the story of the challengers, the Amazons, the Googles, the open source folks, that much more compelling.
By casting himself as the villain, Larry Ellison, in a weird way, became the greatest catalyst for innovation in his own industry. He gave his rivals a common enemy, a crystal-clear motivation, and a dramatic story to tell the world. He basically wrote the script for his own opposition.
And that leaves us with this final thought. When you look back at the history of these database wars, you kind of have to wonder, is conflict a necessary ingredient for progress? Do we actually need a villain to push the heroes to become their absolute best? It's a fascinating question about how technology, and maybe even history itself, really moves forward.